Exactly.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember you talked about PVZ a little bit and trying to find a solid thing.
Oh,
Your two
uh,
Stargate Phoenix. Like, what's going on right now?
yeah, I didn't practice a lot against Zerg just because I didn't find almost any on the ladder these days. But ecco, I have a question about a game I had before a PVZ, because I did a macro game. I won that game, but I'm not sure if I did the uh, correct response to everything. Okay.
Okay, no worries. Well, let's get in and take a look see then. So, was
Yeah.
it just this one replay you wanted to look at today? Once we go over this
Mm,
replay, what else should we try to do? Did you want to play
oh
some
yeah.
live games?
This just because I'm not. I played before and I'm not sure. So I wanted to ask. Okay. And then PVT, we talked about the previous session. It works fine. I'm not playing a lot of DT drop just because I found Terran on the good maps for Colossi, so I prefer to build the Colossi, and maybe they just all in me, so I don't play DT if they do crazy stuff.
Cool. And that was Robo First Colossus, wasn't it? That you were playing with like
Oh
the
yeah,
three.
yeah, with
You were
three
doing
observer.
good three observer. I love that. Yeah, it was the three observer style. Still awesome. I love it. Um, it's so funny because that style I was doing that for quite a while. It's so good. And really, it's like funny because to take advantage of it, it's like the Terran has to just abuse mobility so much, you know?
Yeah.
Because and it's so hard for Terran players to do that because they need to be aware of the fact that you're always watching. So for a lot of Terrans, when they try to do that, they just end up flying into Colossus Stalkers, you know, even before Blink's done, and having a very bad time. So it's
Yeah, also
yeah.
gives you two Colossi before the Terran push, so they just struggle against them.
Yeah, if they do a quick Raven as well, like I remember I had started having so much fun because 4GG was just doing the same push to me when I was doing that build over and over. And then every game my Prism would pop, like just as he gets to my third base, they would get there and like he does his interference matrix and I'd always dodge the matrix with the Prism pickup. And then like if you dodge the matrix, that bio army just melts to
Yeah, I should
Colossus.
be doing that more, because I don't really think about the Prism,
It's hard to pull off.
pickup. Yeah.
It's easy to make the mistake and lose the game and feel stupid.
This game I played Double Stargate Voidray, but then I forgot the Templar archives, so I freestyled a bit to keep me in the game, and yeah, cause he pushed with Link Bane with Queens, did a semi-all-in. I barely survive, and then I noticed I forgot the Templar archives, so I tried to do some pressure with the Voidrays while switching completely the army to Archon Immortal Storm, because he played Hydra then. So I wasn't sure if it was a weird situation because of the lack of storms. But I'm not sure if Immortal Switch was the correct call or just anything. I mean.
Do you always do 2 Stargate before third base?
Almost yes, cause same with the Voidrays or the Phoenix. No. I think no, yeah. With the Phoenix, I played double Stargate before, and with Voidrays, I used to play after. But I saw the evolution chamber with Adept, so I I was worried about the +1 links, so I took it after and wanted more Voidray faster, I think.
You know what's interesting? +1 melee can't really kick in that early, so it might actually be safer to go for the third faster against +1 melee because that gives you more time to get the shield battery, the adepts up, and I don't know if it'll really change your count. So the one thing because I was doing when I was first learning the Voidray build, I did the second Stargate just because I happened to watch stats do this a bunch of games, and I was like, oh cool, let's do that. And it does give you just a bit less economy, whereas like the way we saw like Zest do it, every time he did it, that just flawless macro, it was always third Nexus and then the two gases in the second Stargate. And he'd still be able to hit some pretty fierce Void Ray timings. If we delay the third to do this, I feel like we want to be a bit more aggressive with our Void Rays.
Yeah.
And we always want to try and hit like a really sharp 4 Void Ray dive. And the thing is, that's going to be really good in a meta where people are rushing Lair and not building that many queens. They're like trying to rush up to Spire or Hydroden, and you get in there just before that. But if they non-stop build queens, like what you're up against here, there's no way you're going to do any damage with Void Rays unless they like just leave their units sitting out in the open, which you can see everyone's so used to playing these Void Rays. Like, look at this player. Overlord's pulling to the back. He's like one or two Overlords out, but even they're pulling way back. The fourth base is in a really bad position, so thankfully our opponent is going to let us snipe the fourth, which is always nice of them. Like, it's very kind of Zerg players to always build their fourth in the worst possible position. It's very nice that they like doing that, rather than just building it in the corner where it's actually good. But yeah, this is not a very fast timing to be hitting with 3 Void Rays, right?
Yeah.
So the second Stargate, does it actually give us any extra safety? I think I think what it's best against is if someone does like a 35 to 40 drone, just walk like 7, 8 queens across the map, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7 queens, ravage a ling. Like one of these timings where you don't even need to defend a third. You just need to get enough Void Rays to just overwhelm all the queens, right? And then that wins you the game. Or you get a few Void Rays, say you got 6 Void Rays, then you start chronoing Phoenix, and you start just picking up the high energy queens while focusing down the other ones, and something like that. And you just have to dodge bile. But as long as you've got some battery overcharge, that is more than enough to deal with the transfuse. And then you can defend. I don't know if those pushes are that scary anyway, to be honest. So yeah, well, I'm not sure. My tendency is to think the quicker third base is probably better right now. What do you think?
As I used to play the Zerg matchup in a passive way, so yeah, I think I should always build the faster third base.
Cool.
Also, as you said, the +1 melee, it's really late. So with 1 target production, I should be fine against any link pressure if he try to put it early on. So yeah, better economy then.
So I like that idea. So it's 3 minutes 50, third Nexus. Usually it's about then, right? About 350, sometimes even slightly earlier, 345, somewhere around here should be. Probe is going over there, and we could see this lines up really nicely. Even if you queued a few extra probes right now, probe gets over there by about 4 minutes. Third base. We then drop the double gas on our natural, and then we drop the second Stargate. And you can do this while the second Void Ray is already building. And what's interesting as well is how quickly do we go? So you built a really quick forge this game as well, which to me, I kind of like, I don't mind if you're going to play Turtle Skytoss straight to carriers, but if we're playing Void Ray Charge Lot, I think it's not necessary to get a forge so fast.
Yeah, it's a bit an autopilot forge because I used to play Double Stargate Phoenix, so I just drop the forge to build cannons to defend the third. Yeah, it was a mistake. I should build a van with the Twilight Council. Yeah.
If you scout a big all-in coming, that's the best structure, right? Like if you know there's an all-in coming, get the forge, get cannons and batteries, right? Defends anything.
Yes.
So let's just try to make sure we only do it when we actually know there's an all-in coming. So when do you normally, if we weren't building that forge, if we weren't worried about the early Evo, I don't think the Evo demands any response from us at all. I think we could just do our normal thing, ignore the Evo.
Okay.
Maybe leave an extra Voidray sitting above the third rather than going straight across the map. Be a little more conservative with having your units in position, but for the most part, you don't need to worry. For me, I would always go Twilight and Forge right after this. So I would go third base. I would just follow what Zest did every game because he's so tight, right? Third and fourth gas, second Stargate. And before starting my third and fourth Voidray, I would always go Twilight and Forge right here. And then I would start my number 3, number 4 Voidrays. Only after I've started Twilight and Forge. Because the way he gets it, even when he goes up to 6 Voidrays, or if he stops at 4, it doesn't matter, whichever way he goes there, he's always very quick into charge and +1, and that's where so much of his power comes from. So Twilight plus Forge, then we can go third and fourth Voidray, and potentially, if you want fifth and sixth Voidray, sometimes you could just stop at 4 Voidrays, right? We can play that more conservative style.
Yeah.
So let's make sure we have this in our mind. So in terms of meta, okay, when to go 6 Voidrays, when to stop at 4 Voidrays. What do you think would be something that makes you want to commit to lots of Voidrays, or maybe to swap into less Voidrays? Like, how do you think about this in terms of what builds the Zerg's doing?
Yeah, I think if I see the fourth base have appropriate timing, and the drones on the third should stop being Voidrays and go whatever I want.
So you see the Voidrays more as like they're there to defend a big attack, but if you see he's droning up enough, we might as well just go to the ground army. It's hard to scout that though, isn't it? Right? I wonder timing wise. Like, let me just open a VOD while we're doing this.
Yeah, should build an oracle also as a second unit.
Second unit, I think. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Actually, very very good point there. Okay, that's really important.
Because with Voidrays, a bit hard to scout the Zerg.
Yeah. Oracle after first Void. And because that's your only scout. That was actually the problem that Zest and Stats were both having against Raynor, is they only had 1 Oracle to scout. And that's why he killed them with that stupid build where he just maxed on Roach Ravager. It's like, it only works because the Protoss has very limited scouting with 1 Oracle. If they have more scouting, they're not going to die to just Roaches and Ravagers. Like, that's a very silly thing to die to, but it makes sense. Sorry, 1 second. This is not the grand finals. Let me find the grand finals. Raynor Zest finals. 4 days ago. Okay, cool. So let's just look at one of these games where he actually went Voidrays. What game did he do that in? Okay, cool. Death Aura is a good example. I think he does the textbook build on Death Aura. So we can just use this as a great little reference point just to compare things to every now and then. I'll link it to you on Discord. I'm sure you already have seen these games and probably know them better than I do as someone who's playing this style. Linking it in chat as well. Just going to reference it while we do it just to make sure I don't miss any little details here or there, because there's always something that I might have missed. But in terms of, this was a pretty textbook one on Death Aura. I'm just going to very quickly review it to make sure I haven't missed anything, even though I've looked at these games so many times at this point. Yeah, it's Voidray into Oracle. He then second Voidray. Yep. Third base, third and fourth gas, Stargate, second Voidray, Forge and Twilight. Gets a shield battery down, gets his third and fourth Voidray. Fifth and sixth Voidray will go down in a little bit after charge and +1. Yep. And then he does his Gateway Robo Templar Archives explosion. Cool. Yeah, that's the most standard progression. Okay, cool. Just wanted to double check that I wasn't missing anything there.
Yeah.
And we can go back and look at your game. Okay, so it's going to be a little hard, even with the Oracle, I think, to scout in time. I guess 5th and 6th Voidray is going to be building from about, in a perfect build, they're going to be building between 6 and 7 minutes, somewhere in that range. So actually, that's pretty good, because one of the big scouting tells that I always look for is the 4th base.
Yeah, you have wrong stream overlay for the stream, I think.
Thank you. My man. Good job, good job, good job. So the
Yeah,
fourth...
because I'm watching from the stream to see your view.
No worries, awesome. So the fourth base should be started by 6 minutes 30 latest. For a pro gamer, it should be started by
Yeah.
6 minutes. So we could just say 6 minutes, but we're not always playing the best Zergs, right? Sometimes they just take a late fourth.
Yeah,
Especially if we did some good Adept Harass or something like that.
Yeah, 6:30 is my timing for the Zerg 4.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because if you don't see that, it's like, just what do you do if you don't see that? Just more cannons and batteries on your third base?
Yeah, I try to, if I'm like in this situation with Voidrays, I try to keep them like in the middle of the map with a possible path he can take with units to see what is coming to me. And at home, yeah, building more Voidrays, cannons, and batteries, and hope I can survive the Zerg push.
Okay, cool. So you try to opt for the pure air kind of overwhelm sort of defense with void rays, cannons, and batteries. So if you don't already have your gateways finished, do you still try to get all your gateways up, or do you just say fuck it, just build lots of cannons and batteries, lots of
Yeah,
void
I
rays?
usually build because I have a bank, a bit of minerals, and I don't have ways to spend. So I just put some gateways, and maybe they can be useful later.
Yeah, I mean the gateways are. So the thing is, if it's like a
Yeah,
Hydra Bane, you kind of need them, right? Like the void rays on their own.
yeah,
I mean,
because
if
I
you get
always
them,
forget
yeah.
to add them, and I add them late, almost every game.
That's always the
In this situation, of course.
big question, isn't it? Every time you see a push coming, because sometimes it is wrong to build gateways. If they're hitting fast enough, your
Yeah,
gateways aren't going to be ready. It is bad. It's better to just have more cannons, more batteries. And if you do that, even if you've only got 2 gates or 4 gateways, doesn't matter. You survive with 10 void rays, all your cannons and batteries. It's fine. You can pick a fourth. You can build more gateways. You can go into
yeah,
ground, right? But there's other times where, say, against a Hydra, the Queen Hydra Bane push that Raynor did. I don't think maybe you can hold this with Void Ray Cannon battery, but it's going to be very hard. I think the Zealots and
yeah,
actually the Archon Warpins are very good for holding this push, like very, very good for holding this
yeah,
push. So it kind of depends because depending on the sort of push, if they're just walking queens across the map, I do think just building enough Void Rays, Cannon's battery is usually going to keep you alive there. But it all comes down to the timing, the game sense, and all that sort of stuff. So the only important thing I think is to be aware of what priority you're putting on everything and being very smart enough to say, oh, you know what? In this game, I should have just actually got my gateways and delayed my cannons and batteries. In another game, maybe it's the other way around. I should have focused on the gateways and delayed the cannons batteries. Sometimes faster cannons batteries delay the gateways. This attack from your opponent is fucking hilarious, by the way. What is this?
yeah. It was really weird. It confused me.
Yeah, it's confusing
But
me
I saw a
too.
lot of queens, so I was worried about.
That's a scary one, man. You went very high on probes, so you could have stopped a little lower on probes. A few more probes in your main, maybe rather than your third.
Yeah,
And you were very late on your gateways, I think.
yeah.
In this game.
A classic.
Yeah. So why are we so high on Void Rays, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah, because I forgot the Templar archives, and when I wanted to search Storm, build Archons and things,
Right.
I noticed, so I built some safe Void Race more.
Mm.
Yeah, that was
And do you always get
a
the
bad
+1 air
situation.
weapons?
Yeah, I mean, I usually go Skytos, so when I have a good amount of air units, I just research it.
Cool. So you don't have a robo either. If there's any
Yeah,
roach sort of push, immortals are actually game savers. This is why Zest destroyed Raynor in their first series when he did his Queen Roach Nidus Ravager. There was
yeah,
3 immortals with the Void Rays and the shield batteries and 1 or 2 Archons, and those 3 immortals. This is the same core that crushed the lurker push that Raynor did on in the finals on Romanticide. So I really love the Robo as such a good anti-roach unit. The Immortal is so good with shield batteries at just dealing with pushes and that sort of stuff. And especially if people start doing Raynor's max out just queens, roaches, and ravages, like you need Immortals to hang on against that. Absolutely. Disruptors is obviously better against any of these queen pushes. Disruptors is actually a free win, I think, against any queen push, to be honest. But I think there's a good reason why Zest stats, these top Protoss players, didn't want to play Disruptors. It's awkward being on Voidray Disruptor. Like, it's very immobile. It's a little hard to get your fourth base established. Sometimes you end up camping on 3 base for a long time. If everyone's doing queen walks, it probably is just smart to just go Disruptors and collect the easy wins. It really should be. So I think we should write this down as a mental note. If this starts happening, 80% of your games, some form of queen walk, just go Disruptors every game, dude. Instead of going for the Twilight Forge and the Templar Archives and the Gateways, do Twilight Forge Robo, or even Robo first, then the Twilight Forge, and go straight Robo Bay and just start building Disruptors out of 1 or 2 Robos. And I think even 2 or 3 Disruptors just destroys queens so badly.
The thing with Disruptor is when after I defend the push, I have an army which I really don't want to have against Zerg. So I mean, I can't really attack with Disruptor because of links, lurkers, and vipers, everything he could build.
I think 1 Robo Disruptor, that's why I wouldn't want to go double Robo. Because if you go double Robo, you can end up on like Disruptor, Colossus, Voidray, and you're like, yeah, this army's really good. And then they're like, hello, I know how to build Vipers and like, or whatever, Broodlords, like whatever they end up building at Hive Tech is going to ruin you. Your army's just kind of shit, as you said. So I think 1 Robo Disruptor though, because I think if you get 2 to 3 Disruptors out, and then the thing is, if they don't commit to the push, like this, honestly, if people are committing to, everyone's committing to 12 plus queens, trying to walk them across the map, having to cancel this sort of push, they are in such a worse position. So the investment into the Disruptors, if people are doing queen walk above 50, 60, 70% of the time, you choose the number, right? Based on what you experience on the ladder. It is an advantage. It's us paying that cost of, these aren't going to help us later. Maybe if we counter push, we don't even bring them. Maybe we stop as soon as the push is held, just 2 Disruptors, 3 Disruptors. I think going straight for 1 Robo Disruptor, and basically all early defense is just Voidray Disruptor based. With a fair delay on obviously charge, storm, +1, that stuff. But the idea there is you try to establish a 4th base and do, 4 base, potentially charge Archon Voidray attack, and obviously transition into your normal Sky Toss behind that. And we just scrap the Disruptors from there if we don't want them. But the Disruptors can be really good for running around breaking lurkers as well, right? We see Trap do that sometimes and looks really good. Just chipping away, kill Spore Crawlers, kill some lurkers, just, they'll get abducted eventually. But I think that's definitely there. I think overall, the timing on these cannons and batteries is perfect, right? Like finishing as he's getting here. And the really cool thing about this sort of army is this is the most impotent shit army a Zerg player can actually build. So for you right now, I would actually warp in a sentry in my natural, because I don't even know if I'd bother with that. But if I felt really threatened or not quite ready, a sentry in the natural, and my army is just ready to fall back to the 3rd base. And I just try to make as many Archons as I can, right? As long as you have Archons and you keep them in range of shield batteries, he literally will never be able to kill Archons with this army. So this should be a very easy hold for you. Let's see how we do it.
Yeah, I was too late with tactic defense on the 3rd. I was so focused on defend the natural because of the angle he comes in, which when I just rolled the banelings and the links on the 3rd, I had nothing ready to defend them. So I lost the base, the probes, all my eco.
So you actually need to, so when you're defending queen pushes, there's actually some really important stuff. So your Voidrays need to be on a different control group. in my opinion. Now, maybe no, some people prefer not to, but I would always put my Voidrays on a different control group because they're going to micro quite separately to the rest of your army in these scenarios. Defending these queen pushes. Defending queen baneling pushes, anything with banelings, bane, hydra, whatever, it's very important for you to use hold position on your Voidrays. So you've got to identify where they're going to try and rush in and just pull back just slightly out of queen range. Basically, it's like just pull back slightly and use hold position.
Oh, yeah.
Do you do that much?
Not really with the old. If I goes in the kind of situation where the queen are on the base and I need to micro back the Voidray to shot the ground thing, I just control click the Voidrays and move back, try to be on some shield batteries and out from the queen fire. But then I just don't micro the other thing. I just micro the Voidray, so the Zealot usually dies to Roach or to Lynx. So
yeah, because this was really unfortunate. You lose an Archon here getting surrounded by the Lings because you don't have any shield batteries forward. So you built 3 cannons there. We definitely should have had more batteries and cannons out front our third as well because that's just a more wide open area. So that should have been the more bigger focus with just 1 or 2 of the batteries in the natural should have been out front the third. This Archon that morphed had a move command. So this one Archon runs past these banelings. He just runs over to the queens. He has a move command. The other Archon, did he fight?
Yeah.
He also has a move command.
I think I moved when I was on morphing and yeah.
Yeah, that's such a bummer. And so if your Voidrays just pulled back to... You see where your Zealot... Oh, you're watching on the stream, right?
Yeah.
So if your Voidrays just moved to there, you just click their hold position, your Voidrays would automatically have killed a lot of the Lingbane, right? Instead of just running away. And if your Archons focus fired, it would have been godlike, but even if they just attack moved, they would have killed so much. So same problem that Zest had, where he didn't... Or Stats, sorry. He didn't focus down the Banelings. He ran away from the Lingbane Queen, Hydra. He was like, and if he just focused the Banelings down, it would have been so big. Like, basically, you hold position the Voidrays, and if you can focus fire Archons on those Banelings in a clump, like, anytime there's a Baneling push like this, it's just, if you can click your Archons into those Banelings, oh my god. Just like 1 or 2 shots on those Banelings, dude, it ends their day. Like, oh, it does so much damage. It's so sick. And obviously, you're trying to pull back your Zealots. Zealots are actually really good against Banelings, right? As long as we just spread them out a little earlier. So
yeah, I tried to split them a bit.
That was a good one there.
Just too much Banelings.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty good spread. And obviously we needed to try and run all our probes away, but we were just a little too slow on everything. So you kind of knew this push was coming ahead of time, but you weren't mentally thinking about it the right way, right? And you said this. You just were thinking about the natural. You were so focused there. And then he just goes to the left and you're like, oh, shit. Like, you just weren't ready for it. So in hindsight, whenever you're up against a Lingbane attack, remember that this is the weakest attack of all time. This can't breach a wall. It just cannot get past the wall.
I watched after the game and I am up 20 workers. He's just a Lingbane. His army, his eco is all bad. I'm in a really win position. I just fall apart to the Banelings.
Yeah, so just remember that if you have a wall, it's just so untouchable to Banelings. So likewise, like when I actually saw the Banelings morphing, I was like actually thinking, if I was you, not only would I put these cannons down, maybe I would have even put a gateway or 2 down, just to create a semi-wall. Just because for me, I look at that and I'm like, as long as I stop those Banelings getting in my mineral lines, like they don't have any sustainability. If I get 4 Archons out in shield battery range, like this fight is laughable. He won't kill anything, not a single unit. So obviously, slight mistake. We know how to deal with it in future. This is such a rare sort of attack, right? Lingbane Queen, that you're like, you kind of, sometimes your brain malfunctions a little bit. You're like, oh, what is this going to do? You're not really sure how it works, but now you've seen it before. You've got that, oh, okay, I know what this is. The cool thing is, you end up crushing it so effing hard with your shield battery and your Archons, and your Voidrays survive. You're still winning this game, right? So, losing the 3rd base does suck, losing that Nexus. But you can just drop the 3rd and the 4th. And you could even have gone and killed him here, probably, right? Let's see. How many gateways you got?
should have moved right away with the Voidrays, because I killed all the queens, but I stayed a bit too passive, so like for 30 seconds, maybe, I don't know. And so he had the time to build the Hydra then and a round of queen.
You can't actually kill him, right? Because you don't have a warp prism or any warp in point. So you can't kill
Yeah.
him, but you could warp in a few Archons to defend your third base, make sure he can't cancel it.
Yeah.
Because if he comes in with Lings and cancels that, that's like, dude, your economy is already pretty shit right now. Like, so I would be building Archons at the third. I'd be trying to sneak a fourth up, either on the right or in the top left, and just hoping that I can't defend it. I just hope he doesn't see it. Holding down the probe key, and as you said, yeah, just get the Voidrays over there, kill a hatchery or two, and you actually probably could have won the game. You got +1, 8 Voidrays. Yeah, you could have done a lot of damage. At least kill the hatchery, maybe bounced between the left side up into the main, into the low ground. You know, force the queens to split up, and then just fight them when they're split up. So, yeah, I think always work that angle. If they take that base, always go for this spot over on the left. It's just always the better angle because you can escape easily into the dead space and you can always choose a new angle to attack. So even when you think your opponent's weak, dive straight to this mineral line and go left if you're outnumbered and you're afraid and go up into the main. But just always work those two angles and don't go through the middle of the map. Even though you think, oh, let's get on top of his rally and it seems good, it just means that if you have to run away, it's a little more dangerous. So really good hatch snipe.
Yeah, the thing here is I'm in a bad eco position, and when I just build the 1 or 2 round of drones, he needs to be on 80. He just start pumping on Hydra, so I have like 1-2 minutes to prepare to defend Zerg coming.
Yeah.
And I tried to switch to a ground army with Immortals, but I'm not sure if in this situation with 2-star with Void or something is the correct call.
If you want, you can add. I wouldn't bother with sentries, too fancy. I mean, Guardian Shield's nice, but it doesn't really matter. I really think you could have taken your fourth base immediately. I really do think with those Void Rays keeping him busy, like in that scenario, because the thing is, you've got to understand your economic position. Whenever a game gets messy, expansions become more valuable. So why? Look at your main, half mined out. Look at your natural, half mined out. So this is not a 3-base economy for you right now, is it? This is much less than a 3-base economy. You're on 2 bases of minerals. And this is what happens whenever a base gets sniped and you think, oh, I've retaken it, I'm back on 3 base, but you're not, because you're only back on 3 base. Your other bases have mined out by this point because we're past 11 minutes in the game. So this is something we've always got to remember, where if you take a punch like that and your economy gets brutalized, this is like a set play. This is something that's like that runs deeper across all matchups for me. So the scenario basically can be summarized as I take big damage. I'll put this down the bottom of our notes here. So I take big damage, big economy damage, but have a big army. But I can't kill. I can only pressure and do some damage, do some counter. But like basically I have to play a longer game, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens. Could you have done more damage with your counter? Yes. Would you have killed him? Probably no. Maybe, but probably not. But I have to play a longer game. So the important thing in those scenarios is always to commit way harder to your economy than is normal. And this is where double nexus plus chrono probes and pylons like a mofo. Now, who does this better than anyone? Estrella is our inspiration. Estrella is the best Protoss player in the world at recovering from his economy getting fucked. Like, he gets savagely brutalized by pushes all the time, and a minute and a half later, he is back ahead in probes, significantly ahead in probes against Zerg players. And you're like, what the fuck just happened? He does this in every matchup. And he is the guy who, and he doesn't, he's a master because he understands expanding better than any other Protoss player. So for Estrella, he does this even without taking damage. He just looks at what the tech the opponent is doing, their build, especially in PvP, and he just drops 2 bases at once. And you're like, what? He takes a 3rd and a 4th at the same time. He does this all the time in PvP and PvT especially. And you're like, you can't do that. And he's like, yeah, no, he's doing this tech. He doesn't have a strong timing. Even if he attacks and I lose a Nexus, it's 400 minerals. It's opportunity cost. It's not the end of the world. It's fine. And he is so good at recovering. You know, I always give the example of the game where Maru killed like so much of his shit and he was still beating Maru in supply the entire game. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, because he bounces back so quick. And with Legacy of the Void Protoss, we have that Zerg ability to recover economy. Right? Terran doesn't have it still. Terran's the one race that is still a cuck race. They don't, they can't build 30 workers at once. Zerg and Protoss, it's harder when you're only on 2 Nexi. But if you're on 5 Nexus, you lose 50 probes. It's not the end of the world. Because if you have 1,000 minerals in the bank, you can turn that into 20 probes and then 40 probes in no time. You just chrono every Nexus. It's so quick, right? So same thing here. If you dropped 2 bases at the time of retaking this 3rd while keeping him busy, this would be such a drastic difference, because I think this goes down at 9 minutes. Yeah, just before 9 minutes. So if we got another base at 9 minutes as well, 2 bases past 10, I think you'd be able to build that economy up. And having the Voidrays here, forcing your opponent into just a lot of Hydras, you got to remember in these scenarios that they're kind of so desperate just to defend the Voidrays. They're not going to have a lot of tech and upgrades. So you're actually they're going to be very busy. It's going to be a while before they can hit a push. Now, if they do Hydra Bane, you're like, shit, how am I going to defend a Hydra Bane push? If I was you, I would actually be a bit more confident matching it in this scenario. It's hard to read, but I would actually go full Zest in this scenario. So in this particular game, I would have actually gone Zealot Storm Archon and nothing else. And I would have just said, cool, let's just get a big economy. And I just split my army on both sides of the map. And I would just use storms. And this is very hard to control. But I realized that it's just as hard for the Zerg to control as it is for the Protoss. If you have just 2 clumps of army, and obviously in that scenario where you're controlling 2 armies, your High Templar just go with your army. It's not separate control groups for High Templar and units. It's just, here's a blob of Voidrays harassing in the main. But then I also have a Zealot Archon Storm army here and a Zealot Archon Storm army here. And I would probably just look to overwhelm like that. Now, that's a very multitasking heavy positional play where I'm denying all their creep spread with an observer with my army. And I'm just, all over the map. And I'm looking to kind of out-Zerg the Zerg player a little bit and use that mobility. And the idea is if you're attacking in multiple places, it's hard for their Banelings to get the trades they want on the Zealots. They can't really flank your High Templar because you're the one kind of bullying them around the map. Your Archons start trading really well. You start landing Side Storms. The other option is, okay, well, what do you normally do against Hydra Bane, right? You normally would just defend with Voidray, Zealot, Archon, Cannon, Battery, right? And Storm. And then you would just get up basically 4 base static defense Storm, and you would just go to carriers, right? That's what you're comfortable with, yeah? So if we took a 4th base straight away, maybe we could have just done that. Just get more High Templar than normal, get some cannons and batteries up in front of both of your bases, and then slowly expand out to a 5th in the corner of the map. And this 5th, by the way, or you could even take your 4th in this top left corner. I don't know why more people don't do this. So why don't you take that top left corner base?
Yeah.
No one takes this. Pro
should be better.
Pro gamers don't take this either. I think it's because they're stupid.
Yeah, because I'm used to the line 3rd base and then the triangle 4th.
Yeah, it's like, hey, do you want to be able to attack my 3rd from 4 different angles? Or do you want a shitty tiny choke point in the corner of the map where if the Zerg runs in there, they're trapped? Like, dude, you could have 2 gateways, a cannon, a battery, and a High Templar. Zerg's never running up that ramp. Like, it defends itself, That base is a fucking nightmare if it gets up for the Zerg to attack into. In all matchups, I think people should take that corner base a lot more. Someone else was talking about this. I don't know, it was Lambo or someone recently, where he's like, why don't people use this more? What the hell? We've all got to start using this more. Someone was saying that, and I was like, yes. But yeah, I think you could play your normal style. I don't think the Immortals are really necessary. I love Immortals as like a core unit that adds something. But because you've got your Voidrays, I think you're fine. Did you lose all your Voidrays?
Yeah, I lose all my Voidrays.
What the fuck did you do with your Voidrays?
Yeah, because I wanted to recover, so I thought, okay, I use the Voidrays put them in the corner and just
oh no!
On the main.
You did a peek maneuver.
But then
That's so dumb. I do that shit all the time. You're like, nah, he won't be there. And it's like, why? You don't know he's not standing right there. Like, you showed your units here. Kill the Hydra Den and go away, yeah. But I think the Voidrays do the same thing as the Immortal, right? It's just like just having some ranged damage in your army, because that's the weakness of Zealot Archon, is you just don't have any normal ranged damage. That's what Immortals do. Voidrays kind of do the same thing, especially if we hold position them very well. We don't necessarily need the Immortals. If you want to add them in, go for it. But I think it's more important to have a Warp Prism, because the idea, right? Static defense, going up to carriers, getting a 4th, getting a 5th, lots of Storm. If you can have a Prism doing some Zealot run-bys, then that's always going to, I think, be a little bit more valuable than Immortals. But I think there's no reason why we couldn't just play your normal route from there. We were just a bit slow to get the 4th up and a little bit afraid to commit to it. So we kind of were a little afraid, where if we started a bit of a gateway wall over here, or don't even bother, take that corner base like we said, get that 4th up, get the gateway wall there, I think you could totally do this, and you wouldn't have to be too afraid. There's always a bit weird committing to that stuff, but just keep in mind how much slower his attack is going to be, and the fact that like any hive tech or anything like that is going to be so much later in this game because of that big failed attack of his. So he might be ahead in economy behind it, but he's going to be behind on tech. So it's going to be hard for him to actually do a sharp, hard counter push. Like even this, these aren't upgraded lurkers. These are pretty basic bitch lurkers. They're not very powerful. Ooh! Oh, that storm on the ramp was
Yeah,
quite
I didn't
as deep
have
as
an
it should have
observer. I saw the lurker and immediately panic.
been. Oh
Build
no!
one.
Wait, you've got detection from the cannons though, so you could actually see most of the lurkers, so you could have A-moved this. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I see if there wasn't more lurkers like on the ramp, which I can see.
Yeah, well, you
So
just
I
crushed
was
this army
afraid to
anyway.
jump.
You just killed him anyway.
Yeah,
Good
then,
hold, man. Oh, easiest hold of your life. Your Zealot run-bys killed shit on the other side. Yeah,
didn't reinforce the push.
You win from here, right?
No, because I went 20 lurkers, so I had to switch on carriers slowly while prevent him to push me.
Why don't you just go kill him?
That's a good question.
So the problem is you committed. So what happened there is you did a very classic thing. You said, "Oh shit, I don't think I can go carriers. I need to play ground." But then you're not as used to playing ground. So then you crushed his attack pretty hard. Not as hard as we would like, but still pretty damn hard. And then you could go kill him here, where basically the way you kill with this army, you just go clear creep with your main army. You just threaten, and you just keep sending Zealot run-bys down the right. And then you slide a prism in the main. And it's the Zealot run-bys that actually kill them. Your main army just pretends. It's like, because attacking with Storm, like you can't actually force your way through creep and lurkers and banelings. But you could have done that. The other big problem you have here is like, you're like, I'm going to go carriers now. This is the latest carriers of all time. And you've got no economy. Your bases are all mined out. So you needed to have a 5th base already up by now and be going for a 6th base. Like, you've got so many probes you haven't transferred from your main and your natural down, right? About 10 probes, 8 from the natural, 2 from the main. Should be on your 4th already. So you're kind of like in this no man's land, and now you're going to give him a lot of time to recover and rebuild those drones that you just killed with the Zealot run-bys. Your opponent's army right now is a handful of lurkers with no upgrades. They're about to get one of those upgrades, a couple of Hydras, and a couple of Zerglings. They don't have anything. So this is just us kind of going out of our element. So we should basically say, hey, we either get better at doing this style, or even better, let's just be better at finding our way back to our comfort zone from those chaotic situations. Faster re-expansions with quick Voidray counterattacks. Get your cannon battery storm up and just get your air attacks and just go to carriers and try to secure those bases. But remember, like I said, faster 4th, same thing, faster 5th is going to be needed as well. If you want to go to 80 probes, you need more and more faster bases, right? You need to keep that economy going. So just keep expanding at a faster rate than normal, because if you can get those bases up, it's huge. And even at points where you can't defend the base, just send a probe out, start the Nexus, start a pylon. If they don't notice it, you get up a few cannons and batteries, maybe a little gateway wall, then usually at that point, it's very hard for them to kill. But you can see that you started clearing some creep here, but you should have been just a little more aggressive with this main army. And we should still be sending Zealot run-bys down the other side, which you're starting to do now. We're just a little slow to get into it. Okay, so this here is a pretty bad Zerg army, but it's 17. Does he have adaptive talents? He
Yeah,
does.
yeah, it's
I
too
mean,
much.
this is something where, because if you had 6 immortals, this is like such a bad army. All you need to do, if you ever see Ling Lurker, is just Psystorm and pull back and Psystorm and pull back. And if they try to really jump right on top of you, which he's about to do, just A move it. You'll fucking kill this army so hard, man. So,
Really?
right now, you're kind of pulling back. Your Storms didn't really hit the Zerglings. Okay, good pullback, good pullback. And now you go attack him. Don't ever run away from a mass lurker army. Yeah. It's like
I'm
yeah.
usually so scared about lurkers against ground.
That's what you've got to take it to their side of the map though, right? Lurkers are scary if you let him up here. But if you just run into his base right now, you're gonna win a base trade. Lurkers aren't as good for a base trade. They're not bad for it, but like you'll kick his ass, man, especially with cannons and batteries and stuff and zealots going in. He's got nothing behind this. So I understand you're trying to cut off his rotation, but you should be the one bullying him. So you let him bully you there. So remember, the answer is same with siege tanks. If siege tanks try to run past your army, you go, okay, and you run into their bases and kill all their shit. Always be the one who's forcing him to run around siege, unsiege, siege, unsiege, siege, unsiege. So you should always be attack here. If his lurkers are there, attack here. If he's there, attack here. Just keep rotating your army between different points. Move in, move out. Move in, move around. Clear the creep, and at that point, at a certain point, they will have no vision on the map because you've cleared all their creep and you've killed all their units, and your zealot run bys are killing workers, and you have full map control, which means you get extra expansions up, extra bases. So even then, if at some point they outposition you and they get on a base, you can just run your probes away from the base and give it up and go, I don't care, it's fine. Because the only way this mass lurker army really kills a ground army in this scenario, because it's not supported, don't get me wrong, if mass lurkers are a very good anti-ground army, but it's if you have to fight into them when they're sieged. Unfortunately, Archons just don't do a lot of damage to lurkers.
Yeah.
They're not able to get on top of them well enough. But yeah, like here, you're like, shit, I got to defend this army. Go around. Go attack him. And it's scary to do, but you have a very powerful ground army, so you just needed a bit more confidence in your ground army. For you were more worried. You were more like, I need my carriers. And if you just had a bit more confidence to counterattack, I think you dumpster this nerd, man.
Yeah, now I think I tried two-angle engage, but it went really bad. Yeah. Because I was worried if he goes up the ramp with some lurkers and start sieging the fort. So now I tried to engage, but
yeah,
yeah,
because you put yourself in a position where you had to fight. So this is like lurker comebacks. If you ever feel like you have to fight for a base, you fucked up. And this all comes back to our expansions not being fast enough. Like I said, we should already have a 5th up here, a 6th up here, you know, like with cannons and batteries. Like we should just give up one of these bases and we should be killing all of his shit behind it. And, you know, if you let them choose where the fight happens, lurkers are much better. They're much, much better. Like, so I think there was some cool things we could have done. Like, you know,
also I remember, I wanted to build the fifth base, but I put the camera on the right side one, and I didn't have any cameras on the left side, so I wasn't. Yeah.
I feel that, man. Yeah, just take a breath and go and do it manually. As annoying and slow as clicking on the mini map is, it's like, all right, let's grab a probe, let's go build it. But yeah, dude, I think embrace the corner on this map. And honestly, this is a really good back and forth map, but he just kind of threw you into an odd zone, and I think he was a little more comfortable playing this chaos style than you were. You know, you like your contained, controlled style a little more. Pretty good gameplay overall from you, but we could just see that, like, you know, we stopped our air upgrades here for a while, and
yeah, I didn't have the resources. I tried a few times to start with +2, but
you've also missed a 3-minute window here where he has nothing that shoots up except a handful of hydras. So 16 hydras with 6 carries. You've had 6 carries for over a minute now. You could have pushed. You could have won this game by now. So one of the really good things you want to start doing when you're up against a lurker Hydra army where they're really heavy on lurkers, if you get to 4 or 6 carriers, when you engage, you want to make sure you move your detection forwards. This is if you had that one oracle from the early game, which you never built this game, you got to build an oracle as soon as you see lurkers. By the way, that's another thing. If you see lurkers, build an oracle. It should be the first thing you do, right, for detection. If you can just see them every time you engage, especially if you attack from a new angle and they haven't quite burrowed, the first thing you do is just shift click the lurkers with your carriers, right? Blanket some storms down while everything else pulls back, right? It's just your carriers. I don't know if you want to control click or have them on a different hotkey as well, but it's just shift click the lurkers and Psystorm. As a Zerg player, I'm always like, I've got enough Hydras to kill the interceptors. Just barely, technically. I've got enough lurkers to beat back the ground army. I should be able to survive. But whenever I play a good Protoss player, every time I move to defend a new angle, I lose like 6 lurkers and my army gets stormed. Or, I'm spreading my Hydras versus the storm. 4 or 5 lurkers die and the Protoss just pulls back, goes to a new angle. And they can just keep doing that time and again. And I'm like, fuck. If the carriers A move, they chase after the Hydras, which are kind of pulling back, which are a bit behind the lurkers. But if they just shift click on the lurkers, it's way more effective. So always focus fire those lurkers in these sort of situations.
Yeah.
Drop some storms, move to a new angle. So you could have just done a much better job of chipping away like that.
I usually microwave observers. So I build a lot of observers against lurker. Just have 1 or 2 following the carriers or the immortals, and then micro 1 or 2 observer in siege mode to see the forward lurker.
Okay, this is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, it's better with an oracle, I know.
Yeah, I mean, the observers is good. You actually do a good job with the observers. I like the way you do that, because like you said, not having them on the control group, they're not running in and dying. But this is hilarious, right? He's trying to chase you with like a bunch of children with pointy sticks, and you're a bunch of special forces with fucking machine guns and shit, man. Are you guys serious? Like, are you guys chasing me right now? Are you fucking insane? That army tried to hunt you down, dude. So you ended up getting the angle there, but it just took us a little longer and harder than it needed to be. But overall, lots of good moves. I think the power thing here was, definitely the faster expanding. If there's one thing for a game where you take damage against a Zerg, but they lose their whole army, and then you've got the army and the tech advantage there for a bit, use that army and tech advantage. If you can't kill your opponent, just take so many bases, expand at a faster rate than you ever have before. And it's such a game changer. It really is. So other than that, don't get one directional with your static defense. Final game of Zest versus Raynor. Grand Finals, World Championship. What did he do? He went and built like a bunch of cannon battery on his 4th base. He saw the push coming and he was like, yep, cool. He builds it at his 4th. The army wasn't even moving towards his 4th. It was moving towards his 3rd. That's like just the most Zest thing ever, right? He sees an attack coming and does nothing. I love Zest. He's such a fucking god. And sometimes it looks like he doesn't even know his opponent's there while killing him. Like he literally just like tramples him like an elephant, not noticing it's squishing a mouse. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, how is Zest so good? And there's other times where he sees the push coming and does nothing. And you're like, you're not going to build any cannons and batteries on your 3rd? Because if I was you, Zest, I'd cancel my 4th base and the cannons and batteries there, and I'd build a shitload of it on my 3rd and natural. And Zest's like, don't know what you're talking about. Don't know why I would want to do that, buddy. And I'm like, what? Are you crazy, dude? Like, let's look at that on the stream real quick. So yeah, he spots this army. Yeah, right at this point, his oracle, 8 minutes and 8 seconds, flies into the queens, and he's like, I'm gonna let my cannon battery nexus finish on my 4th. He moves his army over, so it's like he realizes it's coming, but he just does. I'm like, why aren't you building more cannon battery? You need it desperately. I mean, this is still, he doesn't have a lot of time to prepare. It's like 30 seconds of warning, essentially. He also messes up because he doesn't do enough storms on this ramp. He should have held his ground on this ramp a little more, but yeah. I mean, it's a hard push. He didn't realize it was coming. He didn't realize it was this build. And the thing is, if he built that static, he would have held it. It's the same problem Stats had when he played against this on Jagannatha. He saw the push and he went, what the fuck? And they always hold and survive. No matter how surprised they are, they survive with their bunch of immortals alive. And then the Rote Remax runs in and kills the immortals. If there's just a few more shield batteries, it would be huge. Also, if you're ever ending up on this immortal defense. I don't know how popular this Max Roach Ravager gets on the ladder. If it does get popular, always build a Warp Prism after your third immortal. Because if you can just save the immortals with a Warp Prism with shield batteries, a Roach Ravager Remax is the weakest, most useless thing ever. Likewise, don't lose your Voidrays. Both Stats and Zest in these scenarios killed all the queens, but had either 1 or 0 Voidrays left. If you can have 2 or 3 Voidrays left, the Roach Ravager Remax cannot really push in. Even though he builds more queens and walks them across, if there was 2 or 3 Voidrays prismatic aligned over this army a bit further forward to the south, that changes everything. If these immortals were getting juggled through an extra 3 or 4 batteries that finished on this base, an extra cannon, this army dies. Those immortals and Archons survive. And yeah, it seems like supply-wise, surely Raynor still... No, Raynor does not win in that scenario. Raynor has nothing behind this. And a lot of these pushes are like that, right? That Ling Bane Queen push, he had 57 workers and nothing behind it, right? So it's always just about appreciating the push. And I think even though we've talked about defending it with the style we want to play, let's not forget about that meta option. Everyone's probably going to be walking queens because the world champion just won a world championship by walking queens across the map every game. Probably going to be a good idea for us to just build a disruptor or two. Like, anyone who plays Mana PvZ right now is probably going to get a lot of easy wins, in my opinion. If the Zergs keep committing to that and there's just a few disruptors out, it's going to get really easy for us to farm some MMR, man.
Yeah, as you said, I think my problem in PvZ is that I'm not really confident with my army. I'm just too passive. I'm too scared of Zerg, and I need to be more on the map and push him, because I'm doing run bys and things which are the things which wins me games and keeps me alive, but that's not enough against most of Zergs, because they just remake the thing, and if I let them space, they just have more larvas and they can do whatever they want, and the Zerg eco just scale better than mine.
So you're still watching the stream?
Yeah.
So I think everything you just said is perfect, right? It's kind of about having the confidence in those scenarios. Commit to the line. So try to get rid of the fear in your mindset of trying to, I've got to do this or that. Try to be a bit more confident. So we want to do shoulders back, chest out, Zest. This is our inspiration as a brave Protoss who I make fun of because sometimes he doesn't react properly to pushes coming in because he disrespects the shit out of them. But it's also why he's so good because he is unafraid, right? He fakes it till he makes it. He thrusts his chest out. He's got the best posture, the most firm jawline of any pro gamer. And and he honestly just he so confidently follows his build orders at such a high level. Like that's what I find very inspirational about Zest. I'm like, what the hell, man? This is crazy, dude. So if we can be a little more confident with that, I think that'll be really sick. Like and try to like early on, I think we could see the lack of confidence and how that game could have been much easier, right? Where it's like, hey, why are we getting these Stargates and this like random forge so early? Because you didn't end up using the forge for cannons for quite a few minutes, right? So it's like it's one of those things where it's easy to have one game where your forge isn't down in time and you die to an all in and you're like, nah, fuck, I should have had a forge. But like we can't let that influence how we play, right? We just need to say, you know what? I got to get better at remembering to build that Oracle after my Void Ray, and I should have seen this attack coming. And that's it. So try to focus more on the identifying of the pushes rather than the like, I saw an Evo, shit, like, there could be a billion Zerglings. It's this like vague kind of problem. It's like, yeah, this guy's probably playing melee Lings, but like, it usually doesn't hit till like at least 4:35 minutes. Like, we should have a shield battery up on a Void Ray sitting above our third by then anyway. We've got an Oracle that'll probably scout the Lings coming. Like, we don't really need to change anything. Maybe just keep, Void Rays in a bit more of a defensible position. And what's the worst that happens? Like, wow, if he cancels my third or kills it just when it finishes, it's like, yeah, he built 40 Zerglings and lost 30 of them to do it. Like, you can just rebuild it. It's usually pretty even in that scenario. The thing about these Void Ray and Oracle builds, like, For ages, what was I doing? I was building lings to deny their third multiple times every game, and then trying to rush hydras and do a quick hydra timing. And yes, I was killing people by just keeping them busy enough and surprising them. But I'm like, why do pros never look to deny this ridiculously early third from the Protoss? Now, don't get me wrong, there are ways to do it and be efficient, and this is something Zergs are ignoring right now at pro level, and they should find how to do it. But it needs to be done with such fucking finesse, because if the Zerg overcommits just a little bit too much, they just spend way too much money doing it. There's so many times as a Zerg, you can kill the third, kill 2 adepts, kill the pile, and you're like, yeah! And they just like come back out and rebuild it, because it's just that Voidray is sitting above just killing your Zerglings so consistently. Or that Oracle comes in and just, you're about to get the kill, and it kills all your Lings, right? So the Zerg kind of has to overcommit to actually make sure they get the damage because of those air units. And it's very hard to actually get ahead. It disrupts the Protoss, it meddles with their build, it very rarely puts you ahead as the Zerg. At best, it just makes the game a little less comfortable for your opponent. It's more like psychological damage, but you're both pretty even on workers for the rest of the game still. So I think it's kind of cool. Let's not be afraid with our third base unless people force us to actually lose our third. And in those scenarios, let's just get better at scouting and that sort of stuff. I think that was a really interesting game because we saw so many phases. We got to look at opening build order and just being more confident, quicker third, quicker Twilight and Forge.
Yeah, I don't really add build order on PvZ now. I just freestyle on the early game.
Just if we could just do
sure
that.
What to learn?
Well, look in the Discord. Look at the Discord. I honestly, I do think Zestway is so solid. I linked it to you in your thing, by the way. Have you got the Discord? Sorry, not the Discord. The Google Doc open. Because I've been writing notes this whole time, so make sure you use those. And honestly, just this. See where I'm going bold, unbold? I've written that is the main part. That if you just change that in your opening build, it's just going to be better. It's just quicker third base, then the gases, then the Stargate, Twilight Forge, then the Void. Follow that, and it's a game winner. It's just so efficient, dude. It's so efficient, and the Oracle after the first Void. So get into that. I think if you're going to be playing this build order, and I think it is very solid. You're a good Sky Toss boy. You're very good at it. You're good with your Voidrays and stuff. Keep it up, man. I think you'll keep getting good results here. And I'm really curious to see what happens over the next month or two with pro play as well as our play on the ladder. Are we going to be building disruptors every game to survive? Do we not need to do that? Do Zergs keep walking queens? Do they stop? Is there a meta where they walk queens, force us off the 4th base, force us to build disruptors, and then go to a macro game? Who knows? Who knows what the fuck's going to happen? I think we're going to see a fair bit of muters into Hydrabane as well, like just coming in specifically to take advantage of people who go disruptors and different things. It'll be that there's lots of things that'll happen, so we'll see what goes on. But for now, thank you very much for the support, my dude. I really appreciate it, and we're going to finish up. But let me know if anything in the notes doesn't make sense. Shoot me a message. And if we get a chance to coach in the future or whatever, hit me up anytime.
Yeah.
But hopefully talk to you online. See you in the Twitch chat, Twitter, wherever. And good luck in the practice, man.
Yeah, thank you very much for the good tips. I really like talking to a better knowledge guy. Because in Italy we don't have any Protoss above my level, so it's frustrating to have always to think about things by myself. So it's nice to have someone to talk about, and he know more than you and can give you tips.
Well, I'm glad you've enjoyed it, man. And this is why lately I've been hanging out, and I'm so happy so many top pros are streaming. I spend a lot of time in Showtime's Twitch chat asking questions and messaging him. I'm like, what about this? What about this? And Lambo and Marine, all these guys sharing, they know so much about the game. And like you said, if you got other people to talk to, you learn so much faster.
Mm-mm.
All right, well, I got to run, man, but I'll catch you later. Have a good night, all right?
Yeah, thank you. A good streaming, and watch for like a bit before going to bed, and see you.
Awesome. All right, good night, mate.